beef liver? Is it this ultimate magic superfood, or is it just a scam? I've heard from customers who purchase our freeze-dried beef liver supplements like crazy stories about how consuming liver has improved their health and well-being, from stopping hair loss to suddenly having incredible energy levels and anything in between. And I'm like, let's really dive in and figure out what is liver and what it is not. Because it is certainly not a magic pill. I'm going to tell you that from the get-go. But it is a fact that beef liver is one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. It has a lot of micronutrients in the form of vitamins and minerals that can positively impact your health. And that is particularly true if you're deficient in any of those micronutrients. And you might say, well, I'm not micronutrient deficient. I live in the US. We don't have any severe nutritional problems here. And I think that's a misconception, because we're obviously not malnourished in the form of not getting enough calories. I would argue that we get plenty of calories. We get more calories than we should be consuming. But I don't think we get enough micronutrients. In other words, the food that we consume is very energy dense, has a lot of calories, but not a whole lot of micronutrients. And that's for several reasons. The type of food, obviously, that we consume, like processed junk food, obviously is void in micronutrients. But even stuff that, fresh produce and meat, and especially chicken meat, the type of meat that people consume a lot, is not incredibly nutrient dense, at least not anymore. We have depleted soils that are not rich in nutrients, so the plants don't get what they need. We raise animals that are really junk food at the end of the day, like, the Cornish cross chickens. I just did another video on our Homestead channel about how bad Cornish cross chickens are. Cornish cross are the type of chickens that you can find in the store. So if you go and buy chicken meat or eat chicken in the restaurant, you get Cornish cross. That's junk food. That's void of most nutrients that we need, even low in protein, comparatively speaking. So from that perspective, I would argue that, even here in the US and other Western countries, people are micronutrient deficient to varying degrees. And that's really where liver can come in by filling those gaps. So let's talk about some of the common health issues that we are dealing with and where liver can help. And also the ones that I've seen customers report to us that, in the beginning I thought, that doesn't make any sense. But here are a couple of health issues that are very common and that can be traced back directly to nutrient deficiencies. Hair loss and brittle nails is a great example. Yes, can be caused by heavy metal toxicity and other things, but most often it's caused to deficiencies in biotin, in iron, in vitamin A, or retinol, I should really say, or copper. Fatigue and low energy. Ask around, ask 100 people, and 95% will likely say that, they suffer from fatigue and low energy levels. And that can, again, go back to low vitamin B, or B vitamins. There are multiple B vitamins that are responsible for energy production, but B12, B2, and B5 are some of them. Again, low iron levels is one of the things I hear a lot. Anemia, low ferritin levels, all of that goes back to low iron intake, or low CoQ10. That is typically found in meat and in heart, in organs in particular, and in liver as well, of course. Poor reproductive health and low libido. If you ask around, how many people have issues conceiving or then have poor health outcomes once they get pregnant by, premature birth and et cetera, et cetera. Low libido is like a top thing, where couples don't, get it going anymore because nobody wants to. And that again can be tied directly to zinc, vitamin A, or choline deficiencies. Weakened immunity and getting sick all the time. And everyone appears to be sick all the time, with some sort of viral infection or whatever. Again, that goes back to vitamin A, zinc, vitamin D, iron deficiencies. All of those play a big role in supporting the immune system. And if you're low on those, you suffer the consequences. Brain fog and poor focus. That's another thing. People work countless hours, but they don't get anything done because they have brain fog and can't focus straight for an hour, and that's again, maybe low B12, choline, DHA, some of those micronutrients, slow wound healing and poor skin health. How many people do you see walk around with, acne and eczema and stuff like this? This can go back to, obviously maybe some of the things that you eat that you shouldn't be eating, but also deficiencies in vitamin A, zinc, and collagen building building cofactors. So mood and depression, a huge thing these days. Again, can go back to missing or deficiencies in B12, folate, and copper imbalances. So you might have enough copper, but maybe not enough zinc, or enough zinc, but not enough copper. All of those nutrients, and many of those nutrients need to be in certain ratios so the body can use them efficiently and effectively without causing any issues. And this is really where beef liver can be part of the equation to fix many of those issues. Here's the thing. If you already consume a nutrient-rich animal-based diet, ideally, somewhat nose to tail, then consuming liver in addition, especially, adding in freeze-dried beef liver supplements, is likely not gonna make a dramatic impact in your health that you can feel on a daily basis. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't feel much when I started consuming our own freeze-dried beef organ supplements, because I was already consuming animals nose to tail, including the organs, fresh. And so what is beef liver then for? Well, I consider it an insurance at the end of the day that can be incredibly powerful if you have existing micronutrient deficiencies. If that's you, maybe because you're on a standard American diet, maybe because you're recovering from, a plant-based vegan, vegetarian diet, and you're low on B12 and iron and some of the other nutrients that are not found in plants in acceptable forms or in bioavailable forms, then by all means, consuming liver can make a dramatic difference in your overall health and well-being. And that's the reason why so many customers have reached out to us and said, hey, I've noticed a dramatic difference in how I feel once I started consuming liver. So let's close the loop here a little bit and talk about some of the key nutrients that are high in liver, that are incredibly important, and that some people are likely deficient in. Vitamin A is one. And if you are concerned, vitamin A toxicity, I just recorded another video on the subject. You're not gonna get into any toxicity issues by consuming liver as far as vitamin A or any other micronutrient is concerned. But vitamin A is essential for immune function, for skin, for vision, and it's hard to get it in sufficient amounts unless you eat, liver or organs in general, and maybe high-fat dairy and some other things. But just by following a standard American diet, you're likely not gonna get enough vitamin A. The same is with vitamin B12 and B vitamins in general, but they are crucial for energy, brain function, red blood cell production, and especially those who follow a plant-based diet or predominantly plant-based diet, most of those are deficient in B12. They have to then use synthetic supplements that cause stomach upset and has a lot of side effects and don't really do much because the body doesn't absorb synthetic vitamins very well. Those are chemically different, they have a different structure than the micronutrients found in real foods. Heme iron is another good example. There is no heme iron in plants, and it's incredibly important for women in particular, especially while they're menstruating, because they lose a lot of blood and iron with it. But even endurance athletes, they burn through iron stores very quickly, and so you need to replenish this with high quality real food sources of heme iron like spleen and liver. Copper and zinc balance is incredibly important. I've mentioned it before. Too much muscle meat without liver can actually lead to a copper deficiency, and so it's important to have that proper balance for energy production, for collagen synthesis, and for iron metabolism. Everything needs to be in a certain balance, in a certain ratio. That's why you find in liver certain amounts of zinc and certain amounts of copper, because they are in the right balance. And you don't need to worry about how much of this and how much of that. Just consume the whole food and you get exactly what you need. Choline is another great example that's critical for liver function, for brain health, for methylation. And you can find it in egg yolks. That's why I consume a significant amount of eggs, and I'm likely not deficient in choline. But if you don't eat eggs, if you try to avoid eggs, muscle meat and beef liver in particular are a great source of choline. CoQ10, incredibly important antioxidant that's important for mitochondrial health and energy production. And liver just happens to be a rich source, together with heart, obviously. And heart is a muscle meat, so it also tastes very good, even if you don't like the taste of organs in general. Glycine and collagen cofactors. Muscle meat is great. I consume a ton of muscle meat and it's high in methionine. But we also need glycine, and that's found in connective tissue and in liver. And that's why it's so important to consume animals nose to tail. Don't just eat the steak, the fillet. You need to eat the connective tissue, some of the skin, some of the everything. Nose to tail is so important because that's how humans have been consuming animals for a very long time. And so again, if you are on a standard American diet, if you're recovering from a plant-based diet, if you're a woman of reproductive age, if you're lactating, if you're pregnant, if you're dealing with any sort of persistent health issues like fatigue, poor skin health, mood issues, any of those things that I've mentioned before, adding liver to your diet can make a significant difference. And so again, if you're already consuming a nose-to-tail diet, if you're in an animal-based diet and you consume, all of the good stuff already, adding extra liver, extra organs, especially in the form of freeze-dried supplements, might not make a huge difference. But I see it as an insurance, by consuming, my 4 capsules a day, in addition to everything else that I'm eating fresh, I make sure that I cover all of my micronutrient need. Any small gaps I might have, I fill by adding in some liver or a beef organ mix, or whatever the case might be, and I know I get everything I need and I'm thriving with it. And so I would also recommend to you, to consider adding liver in whatever shape or form, be it fresh, freeze-dried, you can make it yourself, you can turn it into pate. I love pate. My wife makes me this delicious pate with some of the liver, either from our chickens, from our backyard, from our rabbits, or whatever source, from deer, whatever liver we get our hands on, turn it into pate. Tastes delicious, but just from a convenience perspective, if you have kids in particular, you just don't like the taste and texture of fresh beef liver or fresh liver, freeze-dried beef organ capsules are an easy, relatively inexpensive way to get your daily serving of liver to fix all of the micronutrient deficiencies you might have, or at least most of them, so you can thrive and enjoy life, and be as healthy as you can possibly be. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Do we need to worry about liver? Do we not worry about liver? Do you think you get all of the micronutrients you need from the diet you're eating? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Share this video with someone who could use it, or you should see it. Stick around, comment, subscribe, like, and I'll see you in the next video.